the cloud. All right, everyone. Well, starting 1 minute early. Hi, everyone. So welcome to this full moon meetup. It is the full moon. I saw it this morning. Briefly. Um, so usually what we do is we do a round table, say a roll call, say what the weather's like and where you are. I'm Bob Tremblay. I'm in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, northwest of Detroit. It's overcast now and about 57 degrees. What 57 degrees it says. So we'll start with Bob Nemiroff, our guest. Where are you? You're way up north, aren't you?
I'm in Houghton, Michigan, and for the first time this season, we have a little bit of snow coming down right now.
Now. Wow, that's way before
It's gonna
Thanksgiving.
melt. It's gonna melt, but I was surprised because the weather forecast wasn't so clear. But yeah, we have a little bit of snow.
Wow. Okay, James
Put it
Cook,
down.
where are you and what's weather like?
I'm, excuse me, I'm in Maryland, northwest of DC. It's supposed to hit 80 today. I'm not happy that it's that warm. I'm just going to have to mow my lawn again. I got my COVID shot this week, got a fever, spent the night shivering.
Yep.
Other than that, not much has happened.
Yep, I lost 2 days because of that. All right, Reverend James T. Gregory, where are you?
Hello, I'm calling from Manchester, Connecticut. It's 73 degrees here. It's expected to go to 78, record high for this part of the country.
All right, Dennis McCarthy.
Hi, Dennis McCarthy in Denver, Colorado, where it's hovering around freezing and we're supposed to get snow this afternoon and evening.
Freezing. Oh my goodness. All right, Jeffrey Madley. Oh, just disappeared. All right. Oh, there he is. You can't hear you, Jeff. Can I unmute you? Let's see.
Jeff, you're mute.
There you go. Got it.
There we are. Thank you. Thanks for the help. Sometimes computers get to me. But anyway, it's about 74 degrees. It's similar to the Connecticut temperature. It's supposed to go up to 78, break records. It's sunny. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day. And the only thing that happened new was astronomically lately, and is I saw Jupiter on my small telescope, 90 millimeter, one of those Meade little guys. So that's the only thing that's really new. I'm in Manorville, New York, about 70 miles outside of New York City.
I've been at 2 astronomy events recently with my telescope, and it's been cloudy. Yeah. Linda Lapos, where are you? What's it like?
Hi, I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania. I can't believe it. It's the end of October and it's 75 degrees, beautiful, sunny, and slight clouds.
All right. Larry Lebowski.
This is Larry Lebowski, north of downtown Tucson. It is 68 right now. It's supposed to get up to mid 80s, which is average temperature, but then we're going to plummet to the high 70s for a few days before getting back up to the 80s. Nothing near a record.
Plummet to the 70s.
well, records are still high 90s or mid 90s, and we actually were at record high temperatures the last 2 weeks. So finally getting not 100.
Larry, I think we've met though, but I don't recall exactly when or where. Do you recall?
I've been around a while, so yes.
Right. Larry has the coolest poster ever, and I downloaded that as soon as I saw it.
It's in the back.
Yep. Kirk versus Gore, and I love it. So, Richard Sam, where are you and what's it like? Oh, there you go.
Okay, I'd be remiss, and I have to an observation when the ring of fire came through here. You know.
Oh, you got to see that?
Yeah, but I did it with my arcade pinhole, and it worked. But then I noticed
works
the tree that has a myriad of pinholes, and there was a myriad of these fire. What do you call it? The ring of fire on.
That is so cool. Did you get a picture of it?
Yeah, I got one that's kind of.
That's neat.
Kind of blurry, but Yeah, that was kind of interesting. Something
I've seen multiple crescents on the ground, but I've never seen a bunch of rings. That must have looked interesting.
Okay.
All right. So, Francis Ngoli.
Hi, greetings from Davenport, Iowa. It is 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit, and cloudy. Thanks to our last meetup, I was able to go out a few days later and catch a glimpse of Albireo, the double star. I hadn't seen that before. It was gorgeous, the gold and the blue. So thank you for that.
All right. Interesting thing about Albireo, they didn't know for the longest time if it was an actual double star or not. The Gaia data pretty much proved it is it's an optical double,
Optical double,
not
yeah.
a true double. Yeah. All right, Lauren Levy. Oh, got to unmute.
Yep, I'm
There you
Lauren
go.
Levy. I'm located outside of Princeton, New Jersey, and I'm a rabbi here at the Lawrenceville School. We've got nice, sunny, warm weather, and my claim to fame is I'm Dr. Nemiroff's older sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
I asked who was okay that she attended, and I was told that was cool. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. All right. Kate Savage, where are you? What's it like?
Good morning. It's about 77. I'm in Dedham, Mass, which is outside of Boston. It's very clear today, but it is a tad warm. That's it.
All right. Paul, I'm going to get to you last because we're going to do a VAT update after that. So let's see. David Moran, I haven't got to you yet.
Yeah, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Sunny, going to be to 85.
All right. And let's see. Gary. How do you pronounce your last name, Gary? Don't want to get it wrong.
It's Pokorny.
I would have gotten that wrong.
I'm in Milwaukee here. Sorry, I'm late. And sunny day out after a long time of clouds and rain.
All right. I think that's everyone. Brother Guy is the last one. I have no idea where he is right now. He's somewhere in the continental U.S., I think. All right. So we've done that. Paul Gabor, let's get to you and get a VAT update, if there is such a thing.
Good morning, or whatever it is at your places, everybody. The VAT has gone through 3 runs this last month with Richard Boyle, Jean-Baptiste Quiquire, and Chris Corbally. So it's all in-house. Richard Boyle is back at the telescope as we speak with Mick Ryan. This is a young student from Galway in Ireland, and they will be observing for about a couple of weeks for Mick's thesis. Basically, he has a project looking at the Jupiter in methane filter and some Trojans, etc. So anyway, it's supposed to be fun. They are using a new camera that has been tested somewhat in the previous semester. And of course, when they arrived there last night, they found that the computer that runs that camera wanted some weird password that nobody knew about. So it was kind of interesting. Fortunately, they had a backup plan because they had a laptop that could run the camera too. So I think they managed to install that. But I haven't seen the trouble report from last night yet. So hopefully everything went well in the end. Anyway, I have one other piece of news. There was a meeting of the Alliance of Historic Observatories at Yerkes. So I attended that. That was really fun. Yerkes is a magical place. Recommend visiting if you haven't. And there was a lot of interesting people there. So it's a cool gathering. I'll post the link to the institution's website just for fun. Anyway, thanks.
So before we get started here, I just want a quick note about Yerkes. When I was at Alcon 2012, we had a tour of Yerkes, and they took us downstairs where the machine shop was. And my son-in-law was with us, and he's a CNC machinist. So they got to talking, and he took us over into another room and showed us a space probe that he was working on. And all this time, the tour group had gone on. So when we're done talking, we're down in the basement of that place, and we have no idea where we are. It's labyrinthian under there. So anyway, getting started here. Our guest
And what
today.
is more, if I may add,
Sure.
it was pointed out to us that they invested $30 million in the repair of the building over the last few years when the
Really?
university got rid of it. They managed to find a lot of private money. Anyway, but they didn't repair the floors in the basement. So there are some dark rooms there where there's been a lot of decades worth of various chemicals pulled from the brain. If you walk on that floor, you might actually plummet a few feet into some kind of a weird degraded soil or something. So, yeah, nice places.
All right. So our guest today is Robert Nemiroff. He is up at Michigan Tech. He is a physics instructor. I don't know, when did you start? Because I don't remember you being up there when I was up there. I was up there from like 84 to 87.
Yeah, I started in 1996, so that would be a little bit after.
I have a feeling I would have been very annoying to you had I known you were up there at the time.
Yeah, I think we probably would be friends, I think.
But I'll let Bob. I'm just going to let you take over and tell your story, because it's a fascinating story, and how you got started with the astronomy picture of the day and the beginning of the internet and all that. So I'll just let you take it off, and I'm going to eat my pizza.
Oh, I don't know. So first of all, not everybody knows that the astronomy picture of the day is apod.nasa.gov. And every day we show a new image of our fabulous universe. And so we we choose the image. Basically, it's two people who do this. Still, after 28 years, we started in 1995. One is Jerry Bonnell, Dr. Jerry Bonnell, and myself. And we were roommates, office mates at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center when it started. So yeah, so we choose an image and we post the image, and then we provide a brief explanation, 150 words, maybe as much as 200 words, that's hyperlinked into the internet. And so I'm curious how many people are familiar with it, how much detail we need to go into. Okay, so less than half. Okay, so currently it is one of NASA's most popular science sites, and we do let's see, the last time, a few days ago, I checked, and for a good day, we did 1 million page views on a day. And we are on every major social media platform there is, but we don't actually put it there most of the time. Other people have developed on what we call an APOD mirror on Name Your Platform. And so we just recognize them, and we allow them to see the images before they're become officially presented, which is at midnight Eastern time. So it started back in 1995 when, again, Jerry Bonnell and I were working on research into astronomy and astrophysics at Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And there was this new thing coming up called the internet and the World Wide Web. And so we were amazed by it, and so was everybody. And the good thing, though, is that NASA Goddard Space Flight Center they had a really big, really great connection to the internet. You didn't have to do the do, and then with the modems, then it would play do. You have to put the phone on there. We had what was called a T1 line, or even better than that. So we were connected much as many people are today back in 1995. So we would try to figure out what it is we could do with this great connection. And so we had several ideas. One of them that we discussed at lunch one day was we're getting a lot of emails with attachments. These attachments have images, and many times the email does not know what the attached image is. It's just something cool, it's something astronomy cool. So might be a star cluster, not really sure. I think Hubble might have taken it, not really sure. But being astronomers, we had some ideas to what it was. So at that point, we were thinking, how can we contribute? So the one question is, we could let we could let the World Wide Web be sort of like a stupid web, and there would be just lots of pictures without any description, or we could try to make a contribution and try to make it into a smart web, where the pictures, you could go someplace and you can see the picture that's making the rounds, and you could then find out what it really is and have a better explanation. First thing we did was absolutely nothing because we were real busy with all our projects. But then a few days later, it still struck us as a good idea, which is not always true. Most ideas we come up with might sound really good at the time, but a few days later, they're not sounding as good as they used to. But a few days later, this one sounded just as good as it did before. So we had discussions as to how long could we run this? Are there enough images? What happens if we run into a topic that we don't know much about? So, but we decided that we're going to give it a shot. So back in June 1995, we posted an image and we had a brief little explanation, and we got 14 page views. I don't know how they found out. Those 14 people, I guess, I don't know how they found out about us. There was no advertising. So we kept doing it, and I guess what I like to say is we forgot to stop. So now we're 28 years later, and I've moved away from NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. I'm now a professor at Michigan Technological University. Jerry still is at Goddard Space Flight Center, but he's moved to a new office in the new building, and so his situation. It used to be that the APOD computer was sitting right there on the desk, and now it's run by NASA Goddard, and it's this virtual machine that doesn't even really exist. It's just a name for a machine that's in this list of servers and with memories and stuff like that. So even though we like to think of it as a machine, it's not. And we're still going, and we're having a lot of fun. We still strikes us as a good idea. A lot of times it's fun. Sometimes it's a bit of work. Like if we're going to go off on a trip, then you have to do more in advance. So we put it in the queue, and sometimes we make a mistake. Every now and then there's a copyright problem because a lot of the images we run are created by astrophotographers, and we credit and copyright them to the astrophotographers that took the image. But those usually work out. And so currently we're a little bit ahead right now in the queue. We have a bunch of Halloween APODs coming up straight through not only October 31st, but we have one on November 1st. We have a really cool sequence coming up of the Ring of Fire annular eclipse that were sent in to us. So one of the cool things about this is that the world has become a place. So wouldn't it be great so I've always been interested in astronomy. Wouldn't it be great if the world created itself in such a way that whenever anyone took a really cool astrophotography image, they would send it to you? Wouldn't it be great? And we didn't realize that's what would happen, but that's sort of what happens now. So we have mirror sites in 20 different languages, and because people volunteer to translate it into these languages, and we run images from all over the world, really all over the world. So it really blossomed into something that we didn't envision right away. The general idea that we would post an image that would be the picture of the day and explain it, that's intact. But the far-reaching parts of it, we didn't really know what would happen, but we're still tickled by it, even all these years later. So I'm happy to take questions. I probably left out key points or things like that, but happy to take questions about that.
Right. Hi, Bob. I hope you can hear me. This is Brother Guy. I'm finally off the train, and I'm in New Haven. There's a lot of road noise. I'm outside the station, but I hope you can hear me. I was kind of curious, and the bigger question, where are you from originally? How did you get into astronomy?
Okay, so I'm from just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I went to Lehigh University, which is about 50 miles north of Philadelphia, and then I went to University of Pennsylvania graduate school. So
I have to interrupt. I used to teach at Lafayette, so I know Lehigh all too well. Our big rival.
Our arch rivals in sports, right?
Right. When were you at Lehigh?
Oh, let's see. I was class of '82, I think.
Okay, well, I started working there at Lafayette in '86, so we almost overlapped. Anyway, continue. You were doing grad work at University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in astronomy since I was little. I think my sister, who I can point to, but you don't know who I'm pointing to on the Zoom screen, knows that. So I felt I was qualified to be an astronomer because in second grade, I could say the names of the planets faster than anyone else in my second grade class. And that included the teacher. And that included Pluto, too. Pluto and the teacher had him beat second grade. I was destined to be an astronomer. There you go. And so I've just been interested in it ever since. Or that and general physics. Oh, so let me plug my book. Here's my book. I put it in front of me. Faster Than Light. So I
got a link to that. Yep.
And it's not on astronomy, really. It's on physics, how things like shadows and stuff can go faster than light. So I won't keep mentioning it, but I thought I'd get a quick, brief mention of that now. So now I'm a professor at Michigan Tech, and I do research that some of it is encapsulated in the popular level book in a popular level. And I do research into gamma ray bursts, which is where the research I was doing with Jerry Bonnell and a group at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center when APOD was born. And I still do that research now. And sometimes Jerry and I don't speak all that much because I do my APODs and then he does his APODs. And we only exchange like maybe an email every month or so. But still, though, he's quite the expert in gamma ray bursts and those things. So sometimes we just change subjects instantly and go off into something. If someone's listening to us, it's like, what? What are you talking about? Because we went from talking about astronomy and APOD to talking about something very specific inside of gamma ray bursts. And so it's kind of interesting to hear us talk because we're such old friends that we can just switch gears into something completely different without even an introduction that we're doing that. And just the conversation just flows right on there.
Well, that's another connection we have, of course, because when I was a postdoc at MIT, one of my best friends was Brad Schaefer, who wound up eventually at Goddard working on gamma ray bursts. So I assume you guys know each other.
Oh, yes. Brad and I were at Goddard Space Flight Center together. Yes, he was not in our building. So our little group was Jerry Bonnell, me, and we had a group leader, Jay Norris. But there was another group that dealt with other things, including gamma ray bursts in another building. There's actually a couple buildings. And yeah, so Brad Schaefer was part of that group. And so we would talk a bunch then. And yeah, Brad's a great guy, very enthusiastic. He's got a lot of different areas that he's expertise in. And some people, I don't even know all the areas
he's always got something new. His wife and I actually wrote a textbook in planetary science, which is 30 years old and horribly out of date. And I hope nobody's using it anymore.
Yes, Martha Schaefer. We've met too. I didn't know her nearly as well as Brad.
Right. Well, so
that I still use sometimes on APOD. He had a really cool video. He's really great with the history of astronomy. And so he had a really great archaeological find related to astronomy that we ran a few months ago, I think.
So I've got a question then. How did you get into writing books? Did you go to the publisher? Did they come to you?
Okay, so it much more modest. So writing books. So first of all, this is not my first book because APOD is sort of its own thing. And so back about 20 years ago, more than that, no, 15 years ago or so, we were contacted by a publisher that said, hey, how about doing an APOD book? And it was a New York publisher, it was a famous publisher. So we said, okay, sure. So, so what we did was we arranged to just have the best pictures or some of the better presented pictures in book format. APOD also runs videos. Put in a book, and that did pretty well. And so then they said, how about another book? We said, okay. And that didn't do as well, but it still did okay. So we did those 2 books. So then that was, they didn't really want to do a third book because the second book didn't do as much. And because as the web became more bigger and more popular, there were lots of places and images that you could see on the web. So it became less unique. And also Sky and Telescope started coming out with their yearly issue of Beautiful Universe and things like that. So there was a bit of competition for this, and they couldn't publish as cheap as the Sky and Telescope's. My understanding, we didn't actually discuss finances. I filled in the blanks there. So then a few years ago, though, I've been doing research, and this research has some really cool aspects to it that nobody knows. And so I like to write. I write I guess a little bit more than half of the APOD entries, and I don't have a good avenue for my sense of humor. So I decided to try to combine my sense of humor, my interest in really odd types of physics, like things like shadows that can go faster than light. So the book says that you and I, according to modern physics, as far as we know, we can't go faster than light. We're bound to the less than light crowd. But many people don't know that your shadow can do it. And actually laser spots, if you take a laser spot and you sweep it across the wall, that can do it. It's more or less the superposition of unrelated events. So if you have 2 flashing lights, for instance, you can have the lights flash at the same time. And then you can say, well, but if you have one flash just a little before the other, you can think, well, the flash kind of jumped from one to the other. There's no limit to that speed, because when they blink at the same time, it's sort of like they went infinitely fast. So that's another thing. And so you can, there's some really cool effects that go on with that. So, over the past 8 years or so, I've been writing little tidbits of this and compiling it into a book. So about 2 years ago, I started approaching publishers. I was able to get after some effort, I got an agent, and the agent approached the major publishers, and none of them were interested. They said, this isn't going to sell now. So, so I decided to try to do it myself. So I'm lucky to be in a, this is an adventure. The whole thing was an adventure. I found out that book publishing is for people who have money. Unless you either have a famous platform, a famous name, or something that convinces the publishers they can make money. And I didn't have that because I wasn't going to use APOD to publicize my book, right? So APOD is its #1 site. Its flagship site is on NASA, and NASA, you just don't do advertisements on NASA, and I knew that, and the publishers knew that. So I don't publicize the book on APOD at all. It's only on places like this. So then I decided to try to do it myself, and that was tremendously complicated. So then I went to a place that's called a hybrid publisher, that you pay them money and they have a series of experts there, and they claim they're not vanity press, but it's a little bit like vanity press because they can reject books and things like that. So I was fortunate enough to, so my position over the years, I've published enough papers and gotten enough grants on gamma ray bursts and things like that, so as to become a university professor. So I couldn't have done this 10 years ago, and I'm only going to be a university professor probably for another year or two. But anyway, that comes with a little bit of a budget. And so I can't really build my own spacecraft and go searching for more gamma ray bursts. So I decided to use this budget to pay to get this book done. And so back and forth with this organization. They said you could create your own press name. So I went around and I tried to create, I wanted to create a press name. So I decided, well, what about a star name? How about Polaris? There's a Polaris press out there. Name a star. Almost every famous star you can mention, there's already a press. But I found one by chance. There's not, and that's Betelgeuse. So if you look at this, at my book, let's see, my book is officially published. So I can hold this up here. I don't know if you can see that, by Beetlejuice Press, which doesn't really exist. But anyway, so then you have to publicize your book, because if you just publish your book and put it on Amazon, it turns out nobody knows about it except somebody's sister. And so she'll buy a copy, and some friends will buy a copy, but actually they can't even review it on Amazon because Amazon doesn't like family and friends to review books. But because of my association with APOD, I know a lot of people who have YouTube channels and things like that. So I've been on a few YouTube channels, and so the book isn't selling really well, but it's sort of between really bad and really well. And it's never been in the New York Times bestseller, but it hit #1 for very subcategories, which Amazon does. For instance, in relativity and in molecular physics, although there's almost no molecular physics in there. I don't know how it got tabulated under molecular physics, but it is, and it became #1 in molecular physics for a while, and now is going down. So so it's been quite a hoot, and it's useful besides that, because now when I get students, so I work with both undergraduates and graduates here. I like to investigate things like shadows, like what it is they can do when they go faster than light. So in fact, one of the things that we're looking at right now, I'll do an aside, is when the sun rises, it's dark out, and you develop a shadow. Let's say you were standing on a perfectly flat plane or a perfectly spherical Earth. What happens to your shadow? And it turns out that, so far we're pretty sure, your shadow actually emerges moving faster than light. So even in the most basic case, when the sun rises, the top edge of your shadow will approach you, and actually the other direction too, it's really complicated, faster than light. And so I can now say, instead of having to go to my whiteboard and diagram it, I can now say, oh yeah, it's in read chapter 8, it's in there, ask me questions. So it's useful for that. And it's also, it's great for students because, for instance, scissors can cut paper faster than light. How can that possibly be? Well, if you have scissors come directly down as a guillotine blade on paper, you can have the whole thing cut at once. So all you have to do is slightly tilt the guillotine blade, and it can shoot across faster than light. But at no point does any point on the guillotine move faster than light. It's just the paper that's cutting faster than light. So we actually, with some students, we were actually able to publish a paper on that and detail what kind of scissors can do it and what kind can't. And that was a lot of, the students love it. And so I had a fun time with it. Anyway, so I've gotten away from the astronomy picture of the day. So I have students here also that help me with astronomy picture of the day. They're usually better with social media than I am. And I have embarrassing holes, and they say, oh, no, it's not like that. And so before we now, many times, not always, before we run an image on astronomy picture of the day, we post it to a Facebook focus group called Facebook Sky, and we see how well it does. So on Facebook Sky, you can just, on Facebook search for Sky, or even Google, you can search for Facebook Sky, and you can see things we're considering. Now, APOD does not only run the most popular images. Most educational images are good, really groundbreaking images, discovery images we run regardless of how popular they are. But one of the things we do is we do popular images. And so one of the ways we tell popularity is how well it does on Facebook Sky. So we have students that run that, and we're constantly discussing it. It actually is kind of fun. We try to predict. You would think after 28 years, I could pretty much nail every image that's going to be popular and not popular. And I am wrong so much, it's embarrassing. It's like, and so it's fun to have little disagreements. So many times on Facebook Sky, we post images in pairs, and we have an internal debate as to which one we think will be more popular. And many times, sometimes I get it right, but sometimes I get it wrong. And it's really interesting how different fads come and go. And so many times, if it is popular on Facebook Sky, it will also be a very popular picture on APOD. So people wonder how it is we have such a good record on regular Facebook APOD and social media. for having images be so popular. How do you do that? How can you tell? I really can't tell that much, but we've had a focus group audience. So it's like many times, so we're not the only people to use focus groups. Sometimes here at Michigan Tech, we get a movie before its first run movie even. What happens is the movie studio brings it to this out of the way place, and they show it to the students, and the students are not supposed to take any pictures of the movie. And then after the movie, they ask people what they like, they listen for when people laugh, and they get an idea for how popular this movie is going to be. So that's really cool. So that's sort of what we do when we post to Facebook Sky. We're seeing what the comments are, we're seeing how popular, how many likes it gets, and it's really valuable to us to see what will happen if and when it does go live. The bad news is that even most of the pictures we post on Facebook Sky don't make it onto Astronomy Picture of the Day proper. And now people are even happy, astrophotographers are happy just to have their images on Facebook Sky, because we're sent in many times more than 20 images a day. And so we have a constant fire hose of images coming in. And we post maybe 2 images to Facebook Sky a day. So that's it's already somewhat competitive to get on there. But again, well, it's a long story, but yeah. So some people get angry when we post images on Facebook Sky that are not obviously the best, but we're trying to understand something sometimes. Sometimes we post something there because there's something going on and we want to understand it better, or something like that. But anyway, so we've been going for a while, and so we're happy with it. Let's see, other APOD stories. So we ran APOD for a long time, well, with very little funding. We just did it. It was just fun. So Jerry and I would alternate doing it, as we still do today. Every now and then we would go and ask some NASA, because we run on NASA site, how about a little bit of money to help us out? And sometimes they would, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. But then the money would dry up, but we wouldn't stop. We would still keep going. That was fun. But then suddenly there's a really great movement inside of NASA called science activation. Came around in around 2015, 2016 or so. And so science activation decided to make it a priority, a new type of priority inside of NASA, to provide inspiring science projects that interact with the public, to activate science interest in the public. And so based on that, in 2018, only 6 years ago about, APOD had its first full year of funding, where we were actually funded to do stuff, to do what we did. When we submitted a proposal, and instead of saying nah or maybe a little bit, they said, yeah, we're going to give you the money you asked for, and that was great. So we've been going as a fully funded NASA project since 2018, and it took us a while, and I think they know we would do it even without, but we're still here. So.
One other thing that I hope you can talk about, again, I'm sorry for the sound here, I'm in the train station. I'm actually going to turn this over to Bob to read some of the questions that are in the chat. But the last one I had was the origin of the name POD, Picture of the Day, because now there's a zillion pictures of the day out there. And I'd like to believe they all started with you. Is that fair?
I would like to believe that too. I don't believe that. When we discussed the idea for the naming of the site, I in particular were influenced by things I've seen many years, things like from the early 1900s, where there were something of the day, this of the day, that of the day, that existed well before the internet. And so APOD sort of took this old meme that existed before any of us were born and just sort of brought it into the World Wide Web age. But I think if you were to go search for of the days, you could find something in the early 1900s that's something of the day. Or of the month, because it was tough to do it of the day back then, because publishing didn't work that much. But there was book of the month, there was things like that. And so maybe we're the first one to do it of the day. I don't know, I haven't investigated that. But yeah, we took an old concept and modernized it, in my view. I hope that answers your question. I have the chat open on the side here, and I see things go by, but I haven't actually read any of the words.
There's a lot of links there to the site, and there's a link to your the Facebook APOD Sky on there. I linked to your book.
Mhm.
And I linked on the bottom of the APOD, there is a education link, and there's a whole bunch of videos there. Bob has a whole series. You got an entire astronomy course there, which is amazing. So you can take an So hey, I meant to ask you, your bio at Michigan Tech says you teach physics. What do you teach? If I was at Michigan Tech, what would I be taking from you?
Okay, so I've been here for a while. I've taught many of the courses that the physics department teaches. So I've taught introductory mechanics, little balls rolling down planes. I've taught introductory electricity and magnetism, circuits, electric fields, magnetic fields, how they interact and things like that. So one of the main charges of the Michigan Tech is a science and engineering university, and they're well connected to the Michigan's car industry, Ford and GM and places like that, and Chrysler. So there's maybe the strongest department on campus is mechanical engineering. So there's a big engineering school here. So one of the main things the physics department does is it teaches the engineers physics. So the introductory physics classes are very big. They're in the biggest lecture hall we've got, which is filled. And now sometimes there has to be 2 different sections where a 500-person lecture hall has overfilled, so you have to have another section of it. So I've taught the big lectures. But I also I've taught some graduate level courses. Currently, I'm teaching math methods in physics, which is some really cool math concepts, introducing math concepts to advanced undergraduates, most of whom are physics majors, like Fourier transforms and different types of differential equations, which I find a different kind of beauty than the pictures of space are beautiful in their own way. Like the picture behind you is one of my favorite. Probably wondering how I got out here. No, you wouldn't, Bob, because you're out here too, as is James, I see. But I just lost my train of thought. Oh well.
Teaching
physics. One of the things that I find fascinating by all of this, both APOD and the other things you're doing, is ultimately you're doing for the fun of it. You're finding this enormous joy and you're communicating that to everybody else. At the end of the day, why do we do this stuff? It's not going to make you rich, but it is going to make you feel joyful, feel happy. Have you been able to follow that kind of joy in the research you do?
In my research, yes. But I can talk about APOD a little bit and the happiness and the joy. Yeah, so it's I would probably I wouldn't be writing so much, but I would be following the cool images even if APOD didn't exist. I think a lot of people out here now, even on this Zoom call, they would I just find astronomy interesting and astronomy imaging interesting. So it wasn't one of our original intent, but it occurs to me that APOD has a secret mission that is very, very, very ambitious and has no chance of succeeding. And that mission is to unite the world, because everybody sees the same night sky. Everybody. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Doesn't matter, what your political beliefs are, what your faith is. We all go outside and we see the same night sky. And so we're fortunate enough to get images from all over the world, from all different kinds of people. And it's great. And the night sky unites us. And I think that recently the International Astronomical Union took that theme too. And they didn't take it from us. They had it separately. People have had this theme from before any of us were born. But they've again recognized how important that is. So one of my joys in APOD is the tremendous diversity of all the different places and people that we see. I detect a little bit of friction of that with NASA because NASA is funded with US taxpayer money. So we do show preference we show NASA images more than we normally would. We show links to NASA because there's lots of great science activation projects that have great web presences that we will link to, possibly if we weren't associated with NASA. But so there's a little bit of friction there, but I think NASA, though, does recognize that it is a world leader. It is not just a US leader, that people all over the world, you can go all over the world, you can see people with the NASA logo on. And it's great. So the night sky unites us. So we embrace that theme. And that is one of the things about APOD that I didn't really expect in the beginning that really does bring me joy. It's just not my own joy of seeing all these really cool images like the one behind me, but the idea that we're getting images from so many places, from so many different people. And you know, we have mirror sites in Russia and Ukraine.
What?
Both. And they're both running fine. No problems. They haven't argued with each other. We don't bring up any of the geopolitics of anything. We're not a political site. But we have people on all sides of stuff. And the idea is they all see the same night sky. We can all discuss the same night sky. We can all enjoy the same meteor showers, the same eclipses, well, at least partial eclipses. And so let's go with that. Let's talk about what we have in common. And that's one of the great things about APOD, in my opinion. It leverages that.
All right, we are starting to get a couple questions coming in on chat. James Cook asked, why are so many Hubble images on the APOD credited to the ESA and not NASA? And another question of, how does your faith color your science and your teaching and the APOD?
Okay, so NASA is not the only space organization now. Many, the European Space Agency, many times NASA, in particular with Hubble, NASA didn't do Hubble just by itself. It did it in conjunction with the European Space Agency. Therefore, it's not really right to credit a Hubble image only to NASA. So we really try hard to attribute our images as best we can correctly to everyone involved, which is, for instance, when you see something from the Webb Space Telescope, which we frequently display now on APOD, we also credit the Canadian Space Agency. So it's not only Europe, it's Canada and the US. So we will credit whoever is involved. What's also interesting is that many people now can download data from these telescopes and make new images from it, of images of things that have already been released, but they were people who are dedicated amateurs can just work on these images so hard and make them pop, like the image behind me, and make them pop so much more than the people at NASA they do their own images and they're really good at it, but they don't have like days, weeks to spend tweaking images to really make them pop like this. And so there's now conferences you can go to around the US and around the world, and YouTube videos you can watch about how to process images better and better and better. So this has become its own little industry. And not only of images you can take with your own telescopes, but downloading images from major space agencies like NASA and reprocessing them to make them look even better, to bring out other things. So that's really great. And so we will not only credit NASA and ESA, but if someone did the processing and really did a great job, then we will try to credit them as well. And it's this type of citizen science that isn't really thought of as citizen science, but I think of it as citizen science. And I've talked to people at NASA who are citizen in charge of citizen sciences, and they do agree, yeah, this is definitely a type of citizen science. It's not what you would think of as, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I've seen some amazing citizens imagery from Juno, and that actually got me. Somebody, did a image of Jupiter from Juno, and I got really interested in that. So I went to the Juno raw site, downloaded the images, and I found a YouTube video, just like you said, on how to do the histogram on the different channels, and made myself an image. That was really cool. But yeah, you can spend a long time tweaking those images if you want.
And the data is public. So one of the great things about NASA and many space agencies is soon after the data is taken and the images are taken, they're public. So you can go to a place and you can download them and it's free. So this is part of the open data, open science movement. NASA was in it very early. And so people can work really hard on that. And they make it their major projects, and they do. It's a great type of citizen science. I'm now repeating myself, but I really like that. So
Okay,
let's see.
I'm going to try to get back on here. I hope you can hear me. I had one other question. You guys recently won a major award for the International Astronomical Union for your outreach. Can you talk about how you heard about that?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So Jerry Bonnell and I won the inaugural outreach award of the International Astronomical Union. So how did I hear about it? Oh, I guess I heard about it when I did. First, I didn't see. So we have people who volunteer to work with us, just generally to help us, not even on image taking. So there's a woman whose name is Alice Allen, and she's like an administrator. She worked for the federal government, and then so we have all these asides. Many people are really interested in space, but didn't have the chance to work on space or astronomy. So then when they get later in life, they say, you know what, I'm going to spend more of my time on this. And Alice Allen, who worked for the Federal Reserve Board, did this. And she just started to volunteer. How can I help? So she is a very competent person. She's a good thing to bounce stuff off. But one of the things that she does is she starts nominating us for awards. So she told us she was going to nominate us for that award. And we thought, yeah, I guess, thank you. I didn't really think we had a really big chance of it, but she was enthusiastic. And then how did I hear about it? I heard that the president of the IAU wanted to have a Zoom call. And I'm trying to think, why would the president of the IAU want to have a Zoom call with Jerry and me? So that wasn't all that hard to figure out. And then, but we're very, grateful to get it. We went to South Korea to get it. Oh, the funny part was that, so I was on the Zoom call with her, and Jerry had the time wrong. And so we had to wait for like almost an hour for Jerry to get on the call. And so the IAU president didn't want to announce that we'd won the award. So we were trying to make small talk for something like 45 minutes before Jerry, and I had on my phone, I kept trying to, figure out where he is and why he's not on, because he's usually very punctual. So eventually he got on and said, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was a different hour. So Jerry, my wife Holly, Jerry and his wife Letty, we used to hang out. Well, Jerry and I used to hang out a lot, and we don't really hang out that much anymore. So this was great. We got to go to South Korea, and we got to go to Busan, South Korea, and got the award, but we've never been to Busan. And we got to reconnect, and we got to talk about old times. And some of the conversations, I mean, we talk on the phone sometimes, but being in person, and we would go out to restaurants, and we went out on the beaches there, and went to several of the sessions, and it was really a lot of fun. And of course, my wife and I came down with COVID. So at the award session afterwards, so first of all, the IU was great. It's great. So this is just a cool story. So during the session, people were all wearing masks, and even they had the person speaking up on stage wear a mask. But then afterwards, they had this corridor that they were serving food in afterwards. So everybody from the whole thing went out to the corridor, and you can't eat food with a mask on. So everybody took their masks off and was helping themselves to the food, which was fine. But I'm pretty sure that's where everybody caught COVID. So it kind of fell in the place between the rules of what's good COVID etiquette and what's not, because I mean, they spent money on the food, right? And there's only one place to have it. It's out there in that long hallway, right? You can't wear masks. So it's kind of interesting. So, but anyway, it wasn't so bad. We all recovered, and that was quite hoot. It was the biggest honor of my life, and so I'm very grateful to the IU and to everybody. So that was cool. Oh, also, it's another one. So that was when I tell, that's actually the biggest honor. But when I tell people there's actually another honor that people consider to be greater, but it's kind of stranger. And so later that year, it was like last year, the year before, Jerry and I each had asteroids named after us, based on APOD. So people, when I tell people who aren't involved in astronomy, they say, IAU, what's that? Oh, good, cool, congratulations. But if you tell me you have an asteroid named after it, it's like, really? Which one? Is it that one? You know, you can't see it. It's this tiny little one that goes around in the asteroid belt. I haven't seen it. But anyway, so yeah, so after 28 years of just pretty much doing this, much of those years without even getting funding from NASA, then we got funding from NASA. So after keeping after it for many years, in the past few years, we're finally getting some, not finally, that sounds like I'm bitter. We're getting accolades that I think we gave up on even thinking, existed, but we're very grateful for, and we're just tickled about. So in my view, I worried that Jerry was going to retire earlier, but now that he's got an asteroid named after him, I think he's good for a couple more years. So
I'm getting a link. I posted actually here. I'm posting a link to chat. I did an article on the VO site about you guys getting an asteroid. There it is.
Oh,
so that was, when was that? January 18th of 23. I get the IAU's bulletin on asteroid names and consume that immediately. Like, oh, another one. So go down the list. Look for specific names: Jesuit, priest, brother, stuff like that. And starting to, and there's one week after week after week, more Jesuits were getting names. I'm like, I have to tell Brother Bob about this.
But we didn't actually believe it at first. We thought maybe, so we were trying to confirm it independently somehow, and we didn't get that IAU bulletin at first. And so for a while, we were in this limbo, like, is that true? We don't want to be naive enough to believe it because it would be really vain. But eventually we were able to find not only the IAU bulletin that was sent to us, we were able to find it from just entering through the front door and following different links. And eventually we found out that, yeah, that's, either it's a bigger hoax and we should just play along, otherwise it would be dangerous, or it's actually true.
I just posted a link to that IAU small bodies nomenclature list. That's where you can sign up for the bulletin and view all the other ones.
Thank you. It's been a hoot.
So I had you gave a talk about your book to the Warren Astronomical Society in July, and that was a riot. But one of the things I had the WAS do, and I'd like to ask you this, is I had WAS members just tell, what do you think is the most amazing, what amazes you most about astronomy?
What amazes me most about astronomy?
There's a lot to choose from, I know, but
yeah, no, that's a tough one. That's an interesting one. I guess it's tied in, I guess, with Star Trek, which I used to watch a lot when I was little. It seems to be there's just a whole big universe out there of things that we don't know much about. It's not necessarily what we know, but it's what we don't know. And there's this huge frontier. It's like we're standing on the edge of this frontier looking out. And it's like, wow, look at that tremendous frontier. There's stars and galaxies and nebula and planets and exoplanets and things that we don't even really know about. This whole universe out there that hopefully humanity will get to explore. We're exploring it already more than we ever have. So we have more satellites inside the solar system than we've ever had. We've had pretty much a spacecraft visiting everything that is or even was a planet. And but yeah, there's so much more out there to learn. Is there other life like intelligent life out there? What other things? What other extreme objects are there? Are there black holes? We think there are, but what are they really like? And what are the edges of space and time and things like that? It's just we're just standing on the edge. It's like every night we can go out and observe the most beautiful tapestry and most intricate tapestry there is, right? So you can look at your screen, everybody looks at glowing rectangles now, and it's a pretty intricate tapestry, but if you want one that's even more detailed and even greater depth, go outside at night and look up. It's just tremendously deep and tremendously detailed, and has so many mysteries and so many things we do understand now, things we've only understood. 100 years ago, we just discovered that things like the thing behind me are actually external galaxies, just like the galaxy we live in. 100 years ago, people, a little spiral nebula there. Yeah, it's probably just dust spinning around. But now,
Now
we
we've got
those are
gravity
stars.
wave detectors.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool. So in deference to my sister, I'm going to answer one of the questions that was asked in the chat about, what is it, faith? I'm trying to scroll up here. So I don't myself, how does my faith cover I don't consider myself religious or observant almost at all. So I was, my family is of Jewish origin. And so my sister, Lauren, you can see in the little box there, she's a Reconstructionist rabbi. And occasionally we will disagree on things, but generally we don't argue that much about religious topics because I'm generally not religious or observant, and generally she more is. So I guess my wife once coined it, she thinks everybody should have their own religion. Everybody has things they believe in. And the idea of organized religion, I guess you sort of need it in some ways, but so it doesn't, but then again, what religion does, in my view, is it creates social structures that are very valuable. It creates a sense of belonging for many people who can go to the people of their, what is called their faith, although my understanding is what people believe even inside of faith can be wildly different. But people who identify with certain societal structures, and it gives them a home, a place of people that they know and they can talk to, and they can feel at home talking with, and they can feel a sense of community with. And this is something that religions have done for thousands of years. And it is this sense of belonging that I think is extremely valuable, regardless of what name structure it has. So that's sort of my answer. I might ask my sister what she thinks about that. If she's too embarrassed to answer, that's fine. And then maybe we can, I mean, we're talking with a bunch of real experts here of a different religion. So, so I'm happy to hear what people have to say.
Well, we could talk about this forever, but it's past our hour and a lot of us have to go.
Oh.
Thanks a whole lot for being with us. This has been wonderful. And I hope you could hear me over the echo of the train station I'm in.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And I will get you an email, Bob, about our next summer event up there.
Yes, please. Yes. Okay, cool. So we're
all right.
Okay, thanks again. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. And
Bye-bye.
good afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. This recording is going to keep going for another 10 minutes, but oh well. Thank you all. And wink.